There's a death that happened in the first two episodes of Dope Thief that would put any Final Destination fan on high alert. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. It's been a while. Good to see you. If you're still around, I appreciate you all. I know that I put up a poll that asked, do people want me to discuss White Lotus or Reacher or this Dope Thief? Just to sort of give a bit of a context, I have been ill. You can still hear a little bit of the ramifications of what I ate, whatever the hell I had. But after about a week and a half of fever, you go back and look at the Dexter season finale episode for Original Sin. It was starting to sort of take effect there. 2 weeks later, it's still here. I still had a pretty bad cough going on, so I just couldn't do a video for a while without going into a massive coughing attack. Subsequently, White Lotus and Reacher are a little bit further in the season, and I don't kind of feel like doing the hopscotch to both of them. I will say this, just to give a quick review for both. White Lotus, I could do without. It is moving at a pace, despite me loving both Walton Goggins and Parker Posey, it's moving at a pace that is very slow and a little too slow for me to really enjoy. I'm still watching, but not so much because I like it. Reacher is great. You're not watching Reacher and you love the Reacher. This is sort of a return to form for the first season. It's a very good show. But we're not here to talk about that. We're talk about Dope Thief, which was the one that I put on the poll because I had seen a trailer for it. I had seen a synopsis for it. I was like, that might be fun to kind of do. And I am glad that I did. These first two episodes are really solid. I had no clue that Ridley Scott was involved with this show at all. So both as a director, producer, and of course looks like a quasi showrunner, this show is a lot of fun. Apple, you continue to do things where you put out great product, but promote it to absolutely no one. But I'm here to give you your flowers. Dope Thief is a new series from Apple, directed by Ridley Scott for the first episode, maybe the second too, but the first one for sure. It stars Brian Tyree Henry, who is from Atlanta fame, Eternals, and so forth. He's starting to sort of build out a legacy of who he is. He stars as Ray, with a friend, Manny. Ray and Manny have been doing these, they have been parading around as DEA agents and busting smaller time drug houses in Philadelphia, taking the money, taking the drugs, and then keeping the money and taking the drugs back to a person who was sort of giving them the intel about these small houses, and then they're reselling the drugs. So it's basically being like Robin Hood, get the money, kind of remove the drugs from the streets, but in the same way, they're pushing it to somewhere else's streets. They're just getting off the streets of Philadelphia. But they're not really doing this for any reason other to gain monetary gain for themselves, even though they like to pat themselves on the back and say, hey, we're getting the drugs out of the community. They're putting it in some other community. And so we see in the first episode, which is called Jolly Ranchers, where they are real brazen about their approach. They have a whole sort of Ocean's 11 where they do reconnaissance about the house that they're going to break into. They learn about it. They learn how many people are sort of in the stash house or whatnot. And then they take part of it. They don't wear any masks. They just go in with fake badges, fake jackets, and sort of do the DEA thing. It's interesting in that first bust that we sort of see, they bust a house that has to happen to have a kid that's in there too with a gun. In normal circumstances, they even bring it up. The normal DA would have probably shot that kid, but because they're not, sort of give off this thing that they don't kill. That's their whole motto. Like, we go in, we have guns, they're there, they're loaded, but we don't actually use them. And so they've been doing this for a couple of years now. They managed to build up a little good nest egg. Manny seems to not really want to do this anymore. Manny's like, I'm ready to sort of get out. He's got a girl, Sherry, that he wants to sort of build a life with. He's like, I've done enough of this. Ray's more of the controlling member of the duo. And Ray seems to doesn't really have an end to this. He kind of keeps wanting to go in. Ray is sort of tethered to his mother figure, basically his mom, Teresa, played by Kate Mulgrew, who has raised him since his dad has gone off to prison. And so he seems to be doing this to kind of give back to her for being there for him for all this time and doing whatever it is that she needs to do. But he's selfishly doing this for himself. What we learned throughout this episode and the second episode is that Ray has a lot of self-destructive tendencies. And as much as he hates his father, he is repeating a lot of the same things that his dad did in life. As far as being a drug dealer, he may not be that, but he's living on the edge. He is a self-destructive personality. He has vices of drugs and drinking, and seems to be doing more harm to himself and then putting himself in self-isolation. Thus, the only thing that he sort of gains in life is this little game of playing this DA agent. Gives him some fulfillment, some hope, some happiness. But it quickly turns as the thesis of this entire show. An ex-convict named Rick gets released from prison, and he knows Manny. He sort of gets into their circle, and he wants in on their game that they're sort of doing. The two of them sort of give a layout of what they've been doing. They break it down. They say, like, we do recon. We take small bits, small drug houses, pop them. And Rick is like, cool, that's all good and all. Like, you're doing good, but you're never going to score big if you're just hitting these mom and pop drug spots. I got a big spot outside of the city, out in Ottsville, Pennsylvania, that is going to give us a big lick. Now, there are a lot of questions that come up for me where I would have been like, nah. And Ray and Manny originally both say, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Because it seems like Rick is just coming out of nowhere with this. Like, how does he know about their thing? There's a lot of questions that come up. How does he know about their setup? Who is pushing him towards this bust? Like, where's all this sort of coming from? But eventually they go along with it, mainly because Ray is under the belief that his mother figure, Teresa, has about $10,000 worth of medical bills that she needs to sort of pay for. And he's like, I don't want her to struggle. She's done so much for me. I need to pay for this. And so Ray kind of lets Manny know, hey, I know you want to be out, but let's do this last. Let's do this score so that I can pay for this for Teresa. So Ray starts casing the Ottsville location. He starts watching people go in and out of the location. They look like a lot of tweakers, meth heads, look to be people that they wouldn't have any association with outside of being DA agents to bust this place. This isn't their typical Philadelphia neighborhood. For a couple of days, getting some recon, they decide to go ahead and go in. And Rick's a part of this. Now, Rick, again, this is a moment when I look at this, I'm like, Rick just seems to be a person you wouldn't want to be a part of this scenario. He's jittery. He does, I think, a line of coke or a bump before he goes in. He's jittery. He's freaking out. They give him a gun anyway. Everything about this seems like the two of them are calm and collected, and they've done this many a times, whereas Rick is the wild card, and he has not done this. And it, as you would imagine, comes to bite them in the ass. They get in there. He's rushing to the scene as opposed to doing it the calm and collected way that they've sort of talked about with the clicks and the walkies. They have a whole game plan. Doesn't go that way because Rick throws it all caution to the wind. Gets trigger happy, shoots one of the drug dealers in the house, and then a gunfight ensues. A female drug maker gets shot, who immediately says, like, when they say, like, we're DEA, she's like, no, the hell you're not, because she clocks it, and we learn why. She knows that pretty well as the show goes along. But a gunfight ensues. Fire starts. It's a mess. Whatever that they were planning just goes tits up very fast. And so Ray gets to the great idea. It's like, well, if we're here and we've already done this mess, let's go ahead and find some money and get up out of here. Let's make this mess worthwhile. So Manny's like, this sounds like a terrible idea, but okay. They leave Rick because he gets shot too, and he dies. They leave him, and the place gets set up. They basically set it up so that it blows up even more, so that not necessarily that evidence is, but just to kind of leave it in a blaze. Then they get out of Dodge. They go. They drop a walkie as they're leaving because they're in such a rush, but they leave. As they're leaving, the place blows up. They clock that there's a car in the field, but they're like, I don't see anybody in there. It's not following us. I think we should be good. They weren't good. They hit a deer on their way out, And then they get a call on their walkie. And basically, if they're getting a call on their walkie, that means the car has to be within range. So wherever they are, the other car that's following them is not that far behind to get a clear signal. If it falls out of place, they're a little further away. But if it comes in range, that means they're not that far away. So it's a bit of a tense sequence. It's a really well done scene to be like, oh crap, they're right there on you if you can hear them this clearly. But the voice that's on the walkie is like, hey, just bring us back our money. You guys, I don't believe you're DEA agents. You seem to not be on the up and up, but you don't know what you're getting into right now. So leave us our money, put it by wherever you can. Let bygones be bygones. But if you continue to leave here, we will find you and anybody that you've ever loved, and we will kill them. Well, this just ratcheted it up real fast, and it's a great pilot episode to sort of then bleed into the next episode. That was Jolly Rancher. Then we get to the next episode, which is Bat Out of Hell. As basically these two have to be on the run. We immediately learned that the one female cook that was at the spot was an FBI agent. And she's in a bad way. She can't speak, but she wants to know, she wants to keep her veil of being undercover going because she's like, we're close. But apparently there's this big thing with this alliance that is so big that she's like, people who are doing this or who stole this don't know the shitstorm that they have just created. And it's about to go down big time. Ray and Manny destroy the evidence. They destroy the truck. They take the license plate, throw it. They get rid of the gun. They're trying to do anything that has any attachments to this and destroy it. But both know that they are not in a place where they can just split out of town because of their attachments. Ray has to go get Teresa and get her shut up and get her out of Dodge. Manny has to do the same with Sherry. I'm like, hey, I need to get Sherry out of Dodge. And so they go about their ways to sort of like get their homes and get their lives in order before whatever shitstorm is coming comes. Ray has to go get Teresa, and Teresa's not really willing to leave. She's like, no, I'm good. I don't need to leave. And he's trying to do it without giving her too much information, but she's not stupid. One, she's been through the situation with his dad a little bit. So she knows when a con is being done, when somebody's doing with drugs. And she's like, nope, I'm not doing drugs. I'm doing the complete opposite, which yes, but no, because you are still taking the drugs and giving them to son, who is then redistributing it for profit in his, which is weird because that man's you can see the way he's living, making way more money than you are doing your little petty games with it. But that's neither here nor there. Eventually gets Teresa to acquiesce, but not after Teresa tells him that the $10,000 that she needed isn't for hospital stuff. It's for a retainer for a lawyer for his dad, which he's like, not this guy. Please stop giving money to this piece of crap. Like, no. And the only way that she's willing to go is if Ray is still willing to hold up the meeting with the lawyer that she's put on retainer. Otherwise, she's like, I can't leave. Like, you have to meet with this lawyer. And Ray's like, fine, I'll do it. Just go. So he's able to get her out of town. He also has to take her dog on. So she goes to Atlantic City. She is now, quote unquote, safe. Ray then goes to go meet Son Pham, who's this Vietnamese drug dealer, who's basically the person that gives them the intel about which of the smaller houses to hit in Philadelphia to sort of keep themselves off the radar, keep it small, get rid of some of the competition, if you will, but not get too big where people are coming after him. And he's like, you guys have been doing this for 2 years. You've been smart enough to keep your head down. You guys, this is all over the news. You guys went into a place where this is going to come down like hellfire. Keep your head down. Keep moving. And he gives him a Kevlar vest and some Vietnamese money. Like, this is what I can do for you. And Ray's like, I came for help. This is the best you can do? Like, hey, this is what I got for you. It's at that point that Son sort of gives him the heads up that like I know you're here for more than just this. You're here for it to be around a family because you've never really had a full family. This is what you're here for, because normally you would come on a Monday when all these folks are gone. They're at school. Nobody's here. You came on this day when this house is full so you can be around family because you've never really had that. which is an interesting sort of character trait to sort of hear about Ray. We learn, and we infer through the first 2 episodes that he had a girlfriend that he was with, Marletta, that he wound up killing in a car crash while he was driving under the influence. And so he's in AA meetings. He's been 28 days sober, but then we see him drinking, trying to hide the beer from himself, but then not really being able to not give in to his vices. And so, as much of a control of things that Ray likes to have, he can't control his own inner demons, and sort of it spills into his life. It makes him make some very bad decisions. So, like I said at the very beginning, as much as you like to say that he's not like his father, he is exactly like his father. Ray meets up with Manny at like this little storage facility, which is their stash house, and Manny suggests giving the money back, and Ray's like, "That's a little too late for that because I'm not going to go give this money back and then just stand stagnant while they can just take target practice at us. Like that ship has sailed. We got to figure out how to keep moving." Now, the Vietnamese drug dealer sort of planted the seed that Rick may have set them up, or something didn't seem on the up and up. Do you know all you need to know about him? And did he get his information from the inside? Which Manny was like, well, did he? Like, was he in the same place that your father was at? Does your father know anything about us? And so Ray has to go pay a visit to his dad. The Ray and Bart, played by Ving Rhames, the Ray and Bart conversation goes about as you think it would, two estranged men who are a lot alike. Ray reads him the riot act, kind of goes in on him a little bit, gives him some how he's feeling, probably more so than normal because he's feeling the tension of what's happening in life. And then Bart eventually does say, like, well, I may have let someone be aware of what it is you do in an AA meeting, but that's supposed to be confidential. And like, yeah, cool. Ray's like, cool. What, whatever's in an AA meeting is confidential. And so Bart gives him the name of Daddy Losax. So Manny and Ray go to the Losax home, and everyone is dead. Everyone's been killed, tortured to probably get the names of Ray and so on and so forth, but they've been killed. And then all of a sudden, a shootout occurs. Two bikers start shooting at Ray and them. Luckily, they're both taken out, thanks in part to the Kevlar vest that Ray is now wearing. They get one of the gunmen's phones, unlock it because they just basically Ray puts together that the code, the tattoo that's on the back of the neck is also the code, mainly because he can see the fingerprint dust as well. So he's a smarter guy. And then they take that phone and go try to clean up the car a little bit, bullet holes and all. So they go to wash the car. While they're washing the car, the phone rings. And the phone rings and says, "Hey, did you do it? Is it done? Cool. I got a new number for you, a new place for you to go hit. And it's Ray's house. Like, I need you to go get this guy." And so Ray is like, crap, we got to move everybody now. So Manny quickly starts calling Sherry, like, hey, get out now. I'll explain to you later. Don't worry about it, but you need to leave. So I think he does this before the shooting, actually. Shootout happens. Ray is now like, all right, let me go get the dog and get everything situated. And Manny's like, screw the dog. You don't need to get the dog. He's like, nope, I got to go get the dog. I just got to make sure that everything's good. He goes back to the house where he sort of stashed the dog, and he immediately looks like they've already ransacked everything, but it's really the dog has gotten loose from not being outside and being in the house cooped up too long. After he gets the dog, he goes back to the stash house. While he's there, he gets another call from the voice at the end of the first episode that says, like, look, Ray, I know it's you. I'm about to kill everybody you've ever known. Like, you keep playing with me. And he starts naming off names of people that do have attachments to Ray. Mainly, he starts threatening Bart, Ray's dad. And Ray's like, cool, kill that mother. I don't care about him. And the voice is like, well, that's kind of cold-blooded. Okay, cool. I do have a name. So he started naming off another name that does matter more to him. And Manny, being his pressure point, immediately makes him go and call Manny. Like, Manny, why aren't you answering your phone? Where are you? Where are you at? Manny's place is empty. He goes to Manny's place. It's completely empty. No sign of him or Sherry. And as he's leaving that, he sees two guys in a car outside who one of them gets out and starts making chase with him. And they go through a bunch of streets that I got to say ends in one of the most batshit crazy ways to kill a person I've ever seen. It is both glorious and mind-boggling at the same time. But basically, there's a street that's so narrow where Ray and this pursuant is following behind him, and there's a garbage truck that is taking up the majority of the street, and it's a super narrow lane. It gets narrow as it goes along. Ray makes it pass and sort of gets past, and then this other guy, who's slightly larger than Ray, tries to get into the same pathway, but the truck is so massive that it just starts basically pinballing this man between the wall, cement wall, and the truck back and forth to the point where he then falls and the truck runs over him. It is gruesome as hell, but like, what the hell did I just watch? It's a wild way to end an episode or get towards the end of an episode and take somebody off the board. Ray is standing there kind of like in shock, like what the hell happened? People are looking, police come, and he sort of stands there as a bystander so that he can sort of slip out. It is nuts. And I'm like, if we have more moments like this in this episode, I don't know if this show does a really good job of keeping the intensity up, because you don't know who knows what, who's chasing after them. People are disappearing. People, like, it's fascinating. But to get these chase sequences and then it ends like this is like, oh, that's a satisfying way to end this. How the hell are you going to one up this? Ray then goes to visit the lawyer, who is named Michelle. She was hired by Teresa. And she's like, I was just about to log off or sign out for the day and leave, but since you're here, let's go ahead and come in. She offers him some water, and then he has a breakdown about the day. And he just starts crying, freaking out, having a moment. Michelle thinks it's about his dad and how his dad is finally coming home. And he's like, he plays along with it for a little bit, but he's like, this isn't really it. But Michelle then lets him know that his dad, Bart, is up for a compassionate release. Between COVID and having cancer, he has now been put in a position where he could get a release. And it's at this point that Ray sort of has a little bit of a heart once he hears that his dad has cancer. He kind of comes off the fine, go ahead and kill him. He asks, hey, how long would it take to get him moved or whatnot? And she's like, it'll be fast. He will be we can move him to a sort of safe house, if you will, where marshals are with him at all times. And Ray's like, that might be be thinking in his head, like, that might be the better way to go. Let's do that. What do I have to do to get that happening? So at the very least, he'll know that Teresa is safe somewhere in Atlantic City and his dad is under Marshall's protection. Now, what is interesting is I'm imagining the way that this is all playing out with Jack and Mina being part of the FBI, and now this big thing being this big alliance. I feel like there might be some people that are on the inside that are a part of this, and so I don't necessarily know if having marshals watch Bart is going to be as safe as Ray thinks it is. But the episode ends because the phone that rings for the biker the burner biker phone that Ray has been ringing a song that he knows, but he just couldn't get. And all of a sudden, Michelle spits it off and it rings again. And it's Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. And the episode ends with the phone ringing. So we don't get to hear what's on the opposite side of that or in what way they plan to come after him next. Is anybody who's ever seen the movie Joyride? Very old. I'm dating myself. But this movie called Joyride with Steve Zahn and Paul Walker and Lily Sobieski. This has that feel to it, where it's like an inciting incident happened, and now this plant is playing like Candy Cane with him the whole time. Like, Candy Cane, I'm watching you. That's what this feels like. And I kind of like this. It's a moving ball of like terror and dread. And we just add a couple more layers on it. It's between this and that $1 Million thing that I watched earlier this year with Kevin Hart and Samuel L. Jackson, which was a little bit more, I won't say lighter, but not as intense as this, where they robbed the wrong people and now they're coming after them. And so it's this moving sort of train down, kicking the can downhill that just ratchets up the intensity. And I think you got one. You got one with me with this. Brian Tyree Henry looking like carrying the load here, and Ridley Scott sort of being a master of directing and show running and doing all this stuff. This is a really good series that I hope more people are watching, and maybe watching less of White Lotus. But yeah, those are my thoughts. If you watched the first 2 episodes of Dope Thief called Jolly Rancher and Bat Out of Hell, we'll leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at Hollywood ADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. I'm continuing to work on myself, and so I'm getting back on the mend. Dope Thief, I will be continuing on with, and I will see, because I missed both Reacher and White Lotus, I will see what another show that I can sort of add into the fold before we get down the line and start adding some stuff for for April, May, and June. But that's it. Like always, I got my ticket. You got yours?